This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. This is my 8th interview in our new membership spotlight series that originally started because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, we are very much looking forward to evolving this through the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. My name is Whitney Harmel, and I am the Vice President of Membership and Development for the Maryland Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Maryland Chamber Foundation. I am very pleased today to be joined by Michael Kiley. Michael is the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of the U.S. Government Affairs for UPS. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Whitney.
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned, he is currently the Senior Vice President for UPS's U.S. Government Affairs based in Washington, D.C. He is responsible for leading the company's legislative strategy and advocacy efforts as they pertain to the federal government and 50 state governments. Michael began his career with UPS in 1992 as a management trainee. Upon completion of the program, Michael moved into the management in the finance and accounting function. He spent several years in numerous finance positions in the greater New York City region before becoming UPS's finance manager for the northeastern part of the United States. He also worked in the corporate finance department on assignments based in Atlanta, Georgia, and Brussels, Belgium. In 2001, he moved to London, England, to become the managing director of finance and accounting for UPS's Northern European operations, where he oversaw all aspects of finance, accounting, taxation, and benefits management for 7 European countries. In 2005, he moved to UPS's government affairs function to advance UPS reform efforts on tax policies, healthcare, and laws and regulations impacting multiple employer pension plans. He was promoted to his current position in 2013. So as I said, thank you so much for joining me. We just heard a lot about your history at UPS, but can you tell everyone a little bit more about your day-to-day role?
Yeah, thanks. First, I'll start off. I've been a proud resident of the state of Maryland for 16 years now. I moved here directly after living in London for about 4 years. Been married with 3 kids, and I live in Edgewater. So I've been very happy to be part of the Maryland community, the Anne Arundel County community, and have been active as a coach for lacrosse and soccer as well. So I think it's important that we give back to the communities and where we live. When you talk about, the day-to-day work that we do or that I do, I have to say it varies from day to day, but it could be anything from dealing with air transportation laws to ground transportation laws. Today in Congress, we're dealing with an infrastructure package. Last year, we spent an awful lot of time on USMCA and getting trade right, particularly for our small and medium-sized customers who don't always have a voice. At UPS, we spend a lot of time because we have over 500,000 employees at this point in time on labor law issues, on employee benefits, and we spend an awful lot of time on taxation. And lately, we've been spending more time supporting a lot of our franchisees. A lot of people don't realize that the UPS stores, where we have close to over 4,000 of them in the United States, those are all independently owned and operated. And so we support those small businesses to the greatest extent possible. And that really has been a bright point for UPS since they became part of our family.
That's great, thank you. And there are so many things and so many different directions that we could go in today. I actually want to start by reading a quote from your relatively new CEO, Carol Tomé. She stated, "UPS is a company with a proud past and an even brighter future. Our values define us, our culture differentiates us, our strategy drives us. At UPS, we are customer first, people led, and innovation driven." And I can imagine with 500,000 employees and 4,000 businesses, Carol couldn't have stated it any better in terms of in terms of what the culture and beliefs are. So before we deep dive into UPS's response to the pandemic, let's talk about the company's culture and this idea of being a lifelong UPSer, I believe, as you guys have termed it. What exactly does that mean, and what do you believe factors into so many employees spending a significant, and really, if not all of their career at UPS?
Yeah, it's interesting. My wife likes to claim that I have brown blood, and maybe in some cases I do. But I've been very fortunate, as have hundreds of thousands of people, been able to be part of an organization that has continued to challenge me throughout my career, very early on. And we talk about starting off as a management trainee, which really technically that meant I started off driving a package car, as we call it, a truck. And it taught us what the business actually stands for and means. But from that very early on period, I received just a tremendous amount of training and opportunities along the way, a strong incentive and encouragement to go back to graduate school, to learn more, and the ability to move from one job to another job within the organization, particularly when you're young, kept things, I would say, fresh and bright. And from that period, I threw my hand up there and said I wanted to see the world and challenge myself even further. And so I had been afforded the opportunity to go work overseas, which still is one of the greatest life experiences that I believe anyone could ever have, not just professionally, but personally as well. And then to have the opportunity to come to Washington and work in our government affairs function. You take a guy who was, started off as an accountant and moved into different parts of running the business from the financial side to work in public affairs. And I really thought I'd be here for about 2 years, but was fascinated with what we could do in this sector, what the public policy front could do for the company and for business as a whole. I thought was outrageously powerful. And then the ability to work on so many different issues. So, UPS, we've always striven to promote from within, to provide opportunities from the frontline ranks, whether that be an hourly position, where our former CEO actually started off in college unloading package cars and just ended his UPS career after close to 47 years, to rise up through the ranks. And then always understanding that our organization really is about people. And when you forget that is when we take steps backwards. But it's about our people, our customers. How do we develop our people? Because when we develop our people, we serve our customers better. And all those things, I think, are interwoven with one another and extremely important to our success. Falling back on a culture that was developed over the 115 years, and always reminding yourself that the culture is the core as to what we do. We have to keep up with changes in the economy, and we have to exceed and accelerate those changes internally. But if you do that with a strong cultural background, I think it keeps you pointed in the right direction.
I've known a couple UPSers in my career, some of which are my age and have been there for 15 or 20 years at this point. And there always seems to be this all hands on deck attitude. Where does that come from?
I think it starts with the fact that your first jobs, you work really hard. And you see that our frontline people, and whether it be the folks loading trailers or loading package cars, or our drivers, or our frontline management folks, everyone is out there every day working hard for our customers. And that bleeds into the support functions. And nobody wants to really let anyone down. And so I think the level of effort throughout the organization is really unparalleled from what I've seen in others. We never seem to get maybe the time off, or we don't take the time off, because there's always something that needs to be done. And particularly during this COVID crisis, everyone has been really working 6-7 days a week, because there always is something that needs to be handled. We're dealing with so many different new challenges just not our business, but how we have to interact with other businesses. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it is a company where we strive each other to continually try to do more.
Yeah, what people who are listening don't know is that I had reached out to your team weeks and weeks ago to try to talk about your response to the pandemic, and things were crazy, and you guys were working, as you continue to work, really hard, and everybody was heads down trying to figure it out. So I appreciate you taking the time. I know it doesn't necessarily mean that things are less busy now, but I'm just glad that you guys can share the story. So shifting gears a little bit. Oh, sorry. Yep. My team and
go
I
ahead.
have been having a lot of conversations the past few weeks about reskilling and upskilling the workforce. And as you guys know, and I think most of what people see is complete industries have all but died on the vine during this pandemic. And I know that creates devastation, but I also think it creates opportunity. And one of the programs at UPS is this driver training boot camp. What do you want our audience to know about this opportunity? Because I think it feeds into what you were saying earlier about this growing from within.
Yeah, so a number of years ago, we began to struggle to bring the younger generation into what we would call the driver ranks. And so we had no problem hiring someone to come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning and do a shift, but to get them to move to full time and to understand the demands and the technical nature of being a UPS driver was a surprise to people. And so we knew we had to come up with a new way to educate, recruit, and to safely train our frontline employees. So working with the Department of Labor, we created a site in Landover, Maryland, and it was the first of its kind within our company. We call it an Integrad site. And yes, it can be described as a boot camp, but it's there where we take what was either done on paper or videos, and we put training into real life experiences. And we show people the proper methods and how to deliver packages safely. We go through the safety pitfalls that people are confronted with on a day-to-day basis. We teach them how to use the technology that is within a vehicle in our delivery acquisition devices. And it really has done a lot on multiple levels. We have seen a much lower turnover rate as people have gone from the classroom and into real world settings. We very quickly changed it in the early years from training our frontline drivers to retraining all of our management people so that they were better able and capable to train our frontline workers. We now have taken that program and we have 10 of those across the United States and continuing to grow. We have these training centers now located throughout the world. And, it showed how a small seed planted here really can grow and have an impact in so many ways. At times, we still have to continue to push in this world we're living in right now. COVID does represent opportunities because we have foreseen shortfalls on what we would call the larger long-haul trucking side, where there has been a forecasted significant shortfall for those jobs. I think people have seen the stability that trucking can bring to people looking for work. They have learned more about how well paying these jobs can be. Some of our long-haul drivers can make 6 digits a year. I think people are surprised when they learn about that. So there are tremendous career opportunities out there in trucking. We are hiring like crazy right now, and it's not in the typical jobs that you see at UPS. As we are building out new facilities, the amount of hiring we need to do on the technology and engineering side is exceeding what people would imagine, because our buildings are filled with technology, they're filled with automation, and each of those allows us the opportunity to bring on more technical-based jobs as well. And we see that really growing into the future as things become more technology-driven. You always have to have the support that goes along with that.
Yeah, and you said the word a couple of times that I was thinking, which is opportunity. And are there other workforce development opportunities available for UPSers or someone else who is looking to come into the company? And how does that fit both into the culture of your organization and what's happening in the world today?
Yeah, we do a lot. We have a tremendous amount of programs. A lot of it is geared actually to part-time workers, where we have significant college tuition reimbursement programs. And so the opportunities to come work for UPS, to get a college degree, to get that college degree paid for in a lot of ways, to have the flexibility to work in the morning and then go to school later in the morning or in the afternoon, I think gives people an opportunity to get a head start on their life. And when they're done, there may be opportunities within UPS. There may be opportunities outside, depending on what you're interested in. But we have had hundreds of thousands of people, myself included, that have gone through what we call our Earn and Learn program. And it has been invaluable. In some parts of the country, we have highly developed partnerships with universities where we can customize class schedules. And it really does amount to significant opportunities for those that take part in it.
My neighbor's aunt actually just retired from UPS a couple weeks ago at the ripe old age of 50. She started at 18.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
oh, well,
and
good for her.
We were just talking about it the other day, and she's trying to figure out, is there another step for her at 50 beyond UPS? And so I just think there is so much value in what you offer to your employees, especially if they are looking to excel and to go into new and fresh careers within the company. So can we shift gears a little bit? I want to talk about
Sure.
Yeah, I want to talk about UPS's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, it's incredible what you guys have done. And two of UPS's stated values are teamwork and safety. And I think you guys have 7 values that you share. But talk to me about employee safety and how that translates into customer safety. What best practices have you all implemented over the past few months?
So I'm glad you asked that, because it really has been a whirlwind on all these fronts to figure out how to do everything the right way. And it starts with the fact that UPS has long had, in every single building, in every single function and within buildings, we have safety committees that are led by our employees and our management. In the US alone, we have over 3,000 safety committees throughout the country. And having that resource and that echo chamber as we began to implement social distancing and enhanced cleaning and sharing best practices, because this was not an easy thing to do, to turn your procurement office, which historically was buying certain things, and for us it may have been fuel or computers, and all of a sudden you have to turn that on and purchase face masks and hand sanitizers. And then you run out of hand sanitizers. So you have to figure out how to go to Home Depot and buy a bucket and make your own hand sanitizer and your own cleansing equipment, so that it met all the requirements that were being laid out to us. And to see the ingenuity of what our local operations folks came up with, I just thought was phenomenal. And one of my good friends runs one of our divisions, and he began with his team to share what the local buildings were doing with tweets of the employees, showing social distancing and cleaning. And then he started putting PowerPoint presentations together that they were sharing with other buildings to show what good looked like, and to remap out how the traffic flows had to work in our facilities. Because at times we're bringing in hundreds, if not thousands of people in to a facility within a very short period of time. So to keep that social distancing, to change your security procedures on the way in and the way out so that people could safely move in and out of the facilities was a challenge. I won't say we were perfect all the time, but whenever there was an instance where we were falling short, to show the good that was being done and how much better that was for our employees. And then that turns into how you have to treat your customers, because our customers were concerned. And so we changed some of the rules that we had for certain businesses, and really, in fact, for most businesses, to have to sign for their packages. And we were able to leave them at loading docks and to come up with customized ways to get people the goods and services that they needed throughout this crisis in a smart way, providing all of our employees with masks, providing every single vehicle with the appropriate cleaning supplies and hand sanitizer. And then also working with the states to make sure what we were doing was authorized, because a lot of times people didn't even know, particularly governments, they weren't set up to handle all this. None of us were set up to really handle all this. And the ability to have conversations and to show political leaders, primarily on a state and county level, this is what we are doing to demonstrate how we are being safe as an organization. And the more we have learned, the more we have been able to share. And really, for the most part, it's been excellent partnerships with the various states. And we operate in every single state and county in the country to be able to find solutions that work for our business, for our employees, and keep our customers safe.
So let's stay on this idea of personal protection equipment, PPE, which I think probably most people never even heard that term until 90 days ago. But
yeah.
You don't have to scroll very long on any of UPS's, social media pages to find articles about you all donating PPE, and everything from respirators and masks to healthcare organizations around the world. Can you share with us a story of something that's really impacted our community here in Maryland? I think people would really like to hear that.
Yeah, it really has been an amazing journey, because to your point, I had not really heard of PPE, and I spent months of my life now working with federal governments and local governments on the distribution of PPE, and we continue to do that on a daily basis. One of the bright spots is we had, through a friend, we had learned that there was a tremendous capability up at Under Armour, and that they were producing cloths for masks, and there was a need to get that distributed to various first responders all over the country. And so partnering with them, we were able to be the transportation provider to get those masks that were being made up in Baltimore and to get them across the country. I thought it was just extremely enjoyable to be part of that. We recently donated and delivered masks to the Prince George's County Police Department. We had learned from our local operators that there was a tremendous need, and we all know that Prince George's County was one of the hardest hit in the state of Maryland. And the fact that we have been able to be very successful on our side with procuring supplies, we have made a very conscious effort, is that when we have more than we need at that current time, to be able to donate those to those that are in need. And so to be able to deliver to the PG County Police Department was something that I do believe had an impact with what they were trying to do. And those are just a couple of the examples, and I know there's countless more where UPSers are donating their time locally to work with different other nonprofits in the state of Maryland.
Absolutely. I serve with one of your coworkers on a board of a nonprofit. And so I know that that's deep within your culture at UPS. Have you all formed other new partnerships? I mean, you mentioned Under Armour, but what else in terms of partnerships, whether local or national, have you formed?
Yeah, so there's really been some amazing ones. We have partnered with a company called McLean, and McLean had been working with the U.S. Department of Agriculture to get meals delivered to those that qualified for school food programs. And in rural areas, it's been very difficult to get those meals delivered. In some suburban and urban areas, it's been easier for folks to go to the schools and get the meal programs that they qualify for. So last check, and this was a couple weeks ago, we had delivered over 2 million meals in partnership with McLean, which was just an extraordinary number to get the meal kits to children and families that really needed that. We have been working extensively on the distribution of hand sanitizer. So we had been approached by a company called Pernod Ricard, who makes and owns distilleries across the United States. And we have delivered countless truckloads very early on in the process of hand sanitizer, 60-gallon drums, so probably in some cases 100 drums at a time, primarily to first responders across the country. The first group that we went to was the New York City Police Department when they were the hardest hit, and they were really struggling as an organization to get the necessary supplies that they needed. So that was a real proud moment to be able to jump in and to move as quickly as we can. You mentioned ventilators, and General Motors had been working on producing ventilators, and we got a call in the middle of the night that GM needed these ventilators delivered within 12 hours to different parts of the country. And so to activate the UPS network of tractor trailers and trucks to get that moved. And the story goes on and on. What I think a lot of people don't realize has been going on was really the lack of PPE in certain parts of the country, and the fact that a lot of the PPE that we use was manufactured overseas. And so we have been in strong partnership with FEMA and what they call Project Airbridge. And as of a few days ago, we have moved over 8.5 million tons of PPE as part of Project Airbridge. So we have flights moving every single day from Asia into the United States, different parts of the country. And there are several other carriers that have been involved in that. But to be able to successfully do that, to be able to build stocking locations for FEMA so that critical supplies can be delivered anywhere in the country within just a couple of hours was something that has all grown. None of this ever existed before. And to come up with these solutions, in this case with the federal government, so that we could service the states and the localities, has really been something that I have been proud to be part of. And it's not ending anytime soon. And we have some tremendous customers that help to either produce the goods or to source the goods. And so they have been pretty amazing to see so many businesses step up and really work hard to get the products and to have a secure supply chain to help us combat this COVID crisis.
Well, and I think that speaks to the fact that you're a global leader in logistics. I mean, UPS has a front row seat to how companies, both large and small, are navigating the effects of the pandemic. And I'm curious to know if you have, seen any trends. Have you guys noticed any trends when it comes to businesses?
Massive trends, I think, instantaneously. We have seen business, which was already trending to the e-commerce platforms, to explode to e-commerce platforms. And in any neighborhood in which anyone in the state of Maryland lives, you've seen an explosion in the number of delivery vehicles bringing the essential products to your homes. And it could be safety products like a Clorox wipes, or it could be food deliveries, grocery deliveries. The movement to direct business to home is exploding, and the safety protocols that we use I don't think they're going to go away in a lot of ways, because we have found that they work, and it's been good for us. It's been good for the other businesses as well. And it highlights, I think, particularly for small and medium-sized businesses, if you set up your digital platforms properly, right? And if you're aggressive at rolling out and are flexible enough to modify your business, you can still effectively compete and to keep your business going during a pandemic. And we've seen not all, but many restaurants who are really struggling, but they've been able to modify their business models and continue to go. We've seen retailers, large and small, that have been able to continue to keep their businesses going because they have strong e-commerce platforms. And if there's any note that I could sort of say to any small and medium-sized business out there, your ability to develop omni-channels in which to move your products is essential to future success. Everyone needs to be able to interact with customers on multiple levels. And it could be your storefront, but with loyalty, you don't need the storefront. With loyalty, you can get direct to your consumers. And with an established supply chain, and it's sort of never been more common to hear the term global supply chains than what we're going through right now. But people do need to understand their supply chains because a lot of people didn't. I've had numerous conversations with mid-sized businesses and even large businesses that had no idea how their supply chain worked. Things just showed up or it took some time. But with these disruptions that we saw, and whether it started with ocean freight shipping from Asia into the United States, to the limitations on aircraft going from Asia into the United States or into Europe, or Europe into the United States, because that's a big path for distribution of pharmaceuticals from Europe into the U.S. People were a little caught off guard, or in some cases a lot caught off guard, as to how do I modify my supply chain. And so I do expect, from a macro standpoint, you are going to see more insourcing. You're going to see a broader distribution as to where your manufacturing and supply chain capabilities are going to come from, where there was a heavily reliance in some Asian countries. That's going to be distributed across the world. Not that people aren't going to continue to source from Asia, because I think they will. But you're going to have backups. People are going to have a better understanding of how the supply chain works and what their options are. And even on the air freight side, there's multiple options on how to move their products. And even very sophisticated business owners that I talked to throughout that process didn't understand it.
Well, you are certainly a wealth of knowledge, and so many of our 4,500 plus members are small and medium-sized businesses. And here's what I will say to them. Do not think that UPS.com is just a place to track your shipping. There is a lot of information on your website. There is a lot of great information about your response to the COVID-19 pandemic. There's really great resources in your media and just the news information that's coming out. And so I would encourage people to check out the website, to follow UPS on the 3 different channels that you can see here: Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. There is a wealth of knowledge. And so thank you for sharing a lot of that with us today. I want to wrap up by asking you kind of like a combined question, which is,
Sure.
One, is there anything else that you really wanted to share with our audience about UPS's COVID-19 response? And then I would love to hear from you directly of, even though this is a crisis, what is one positive thing that you personally really see coming out of this?
So let me handle the first thing you brought up. I think there's a lot of resources out there, particularly for the smaller companies. And I'm sure that the Maryland Chamber has been involved in this as well. Understanding as a small business owner what is available and out there for you to keep your business going. How do you get your PPP loans? UPS has been doing lots of webinars, and we've educated thousands of small and medium-sized businesses on what they need to do. And clearly we're no experts in it, but we do have the ability and the channels in which we can share what we know or direct companies to the resources because we know it's difficult for a small business owner to be the CEO, the chief operating officer, the chief marketing officer, the banker, the accountant, right? All that's wrapped up into one. And so they need resources where they can go to find out, where they can get the help that they need when they are struggling. So I urge you to not stop looking for opportunities, because there is a lot of support that has been out there. I urge people to continue to build out their e-commerce platforms, and there's a number of ways in which that can be done, and to truly understand their sourcing and their supply chain as to how they're getting the products that they need to sell. And that could be a shirt, it could be a pair of sneakers, or it could be a food supply, because we know that there is disruptions within the food supply as well. On a high note, it has just been really special when we talked about how hard our people work to be able to see the general public, which at times would look at trucks with a bit of disgust as being loud and noisy, to see the receptivity that they have within neighborhoods so early on in the process. We saw carloads full of people lining up outside of our distribution centers as our trucks were being dispatched, flashing their lights, honking their horns, holding up signs, thanking them for bringing them the essential supplies that they needed. We've seen neighborhoods stop our drivers and hold block parties for the essential workers, the drivers that are coming to their homes every single day. And to see that fabric within the neighborhoods and men and women across the company who really do become part of the local communities, to see them getting the respect and admiration as they are working harder than you could possibly imagine, under very difficult circumstances, to get that acknowledgement is really pretty special. To everyone who's out there doing it, continue to thank your drivers, to continue to thank a trucker. They need it. They love it when they get it. They're working hard for you. They're working hard for us, and they take a tremendous amount of pride in what they do every single day. And so to see that recognition has really been very special. And every day that I see it, or my wife picks up a new video on Facebook, or my kids find something on Instagram, it really is super cool that we see that happening. And I certainly hope that continues on a going forward basis.
I could not have asked for this conversation to end any better than that. So I will simply stop there and just say thank you. This has been an incredible conversation, and I think there's a lot of great takeaways for our businesses here in Maryland, and I think we can all just really appreciate what UPS has stepped up to do on a global scale for so many of us, as we have been, quite frankly, in lockdown for the past couple of months. So thank you very much, Michael Kiley, for spending this time with me. We really do appreciate it.
Whitney, thanks so much. This is a tremendous opportunity just to sit here and chat with you for a while. We're very proud to do it and to serve the various communities in the state of Maryland.
Great. And thank you to everyone who is listening. I will be bringing you another interview in about 2 weeks with a Maryland-based organization that I happen to be also very involved with and passionate about, and they are leading the way through this COVID-19 crisis. As always, I encourage our businesses, small, medium, and large, to continue to check the Maryland Chamber website. We are posting some incredible resources for all of our businesses and updating that as regularly as possible. I continue to wish you good health, and I hope everyone has a great day. Take care.